Hi, I'm Bryan Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with creator and host of the very popular show Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Let's talk about this being a freelancer entrepreneur. Do you think it's something that's born, or is it taught? Is it learned?
I think the idea or the way that you choose to approach your vocation is 100% a choice. Obviously, there's inertia from what your parents did and the other people in your family and your friends. You take your cues from the stuff that's around you.
Yeah.
But there's enough out there today. There are enough examples of both, I think, for most anybody to sit back and say, do I have that entrepreneurial gene? Do I have a freelance gene? Am I going to be more comfortable with more certainty or security? But look, part of the thing that's for sale today, or really a big element of a grown-up conversation, is this idea that security still exists in the workforce the way it always has. I think it's pretty clear it doesn't. And whether you call it the new economy or there are 1,000 different words for it. Mm-hmm. In the end, I think a lot of people are realizing they were always a freelancer. They just didn't own the identity. Mm-hmm. But look, after you've had 3 or 4 jobs in Silicon Valley over the course of 2 or 3 years, what else would you call yourself?
Yeah, well, so let's unpack that just a little bit. Not everyone's got the chops for the uncertainty. I mean, that's, I think, speaking from personal experience, one of the most difficult things. And so if you do make that conscious choice to pursue your dream, your passion, something that is not certain, and I think you have a good point. I think even if you think you have a steady job, you probably don't.
Right.
The rug could get pulled out at any time. Yeah. Funding gets lost or whatever the case. But if you're working a traditional job and you have a boss, it's a little different than the folks that are living hand to mouth, or they are, you eat what you kill, that kind of mentality. Talk about some of those, what's difficult about that and how you maybe overcome it, how you have personally.
Well, personally, I've always thought certainty was overrated. It's critical, but the idea that you fall so in love with certainty that you start making all your decisions based on a known or quantifiable outcome, that's a sucker's bet. The truth is, if your life is filled with certainty, you're going to be bored, if you're normal, I think. In the same way that if your life is filled with uncertainty, you're going to be a nervous wreck, if you're normal. Most people, if they really step back and think about it, I think will agree that you need equal parts of certainty and uncertainty. Yeah. You need, for instance, the certainty of knowing that the sun is going to come up tomorrow. Otherwise, you're going to fall to pieces. But if every single sunrise looked exactly the same, right, it would kind of lose its wonder. So you need the uncertainty, which is just variety, and you need certainty, which is a measure of security. And if you've got that straight in your head, then I guess you can look around and decide, okay, I have 9 kids. Maybe I'm gonna hedge on the certain side, or maybe I don't have any kids, and maybe I do have an opportunity, if I fail, to really hurt no one but myself, and I'll bounce back. And so maybe you assume a bit more risk. I don't know, but honestly, I'm suspicious of anybody who does, because I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. I think everybody's got to try and figure it out for themselves, and that means getting bumped around a little bit. You said something else before, too, regarding passion. And when people ask me what I learned from Dirty Jobs, I always say the long answer is a 400-page book I can't get around to finishing, but the short answers are many, and one of them is a kind of debunking of platitudes and cliches, typically those successories that you see hanging in office buildings like this that say things like, follow your passion. Mm-hmm. And there's a picture of a rainbow and some and butterflies or some stuff. Yeah. I joked about that back in 2004 with a pig farmer on Dirty Jobs. And he said, listen, the thing about passion is you got to have it, but only a moron would follow it. Bring your passion with you in all things, but never ever follow it. And so on Dirty Jobs, we say, don't follow your passion, but always bring it with you. And if you look back at the 300 Dirty Jobbers we featured, many of whom, by the way, are multimillionaires we never pointed that out because that really wasn't, the show wasn't a polemic.
Yeah.
It was just about people who were willing to get dirty. But at least half of the people we featured own their own business. They were entrepreneurs. They were inventors. They were very, very much outside of the box. They were just covered in crap or something worse,
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that people don't equate success visually with that particular image. And that's one of the things the show really tried to challenge, in a fun way.